along came the shiny new thing, should say the shiny older thing, and made everybody forget, it seems, about Justin Fields. I didn't. And I don't intend on doing so. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates. I hope you'll check those out as well. It's the playoffs. Steelers are facing the Ravens Saturday night at 8 p.m. in Baltimore. And it looks like Fields will at least see some action. That was hinted at by Mike Tomlin in his Monday press conference. And Fields acknowledged yesterday that he's at least getting prepared for such a thing. So great. He could be the cameo guy. You might see him once or twice. He could also be your fourth and short guy, since that doesn't seem to be going so well for the offense these days. He could be your goal line guy, since that also doesn't seem to be going well at all. But here's a question, and yes, of course, this is hindsight, but ask me, and I'd rather do hindsight any day of the week than attempting to predict the future, you know? Because at least hindsight is based on something real. And in this case, meaning Fields versus Russell Wilson, well, that's real. And in some ways, it's stark. You know, at this point, they've both appeared in pretty much, you could call it, the same number of games. Wilson was in 11, Fields was in 10. And their stats really aren't very different. Russ has a 95.6 rating. Fields has a 93.3. Neither of those is great. Neither of those is awful. But my point is they're the same. Russ has generated an average number of yards per pass attempt of 7.4. Justin's is 6.9. Justin's obviously got more rushing yards. He was on pace for about 500. Russ would be on a pace for about 300. Russ has thrown 5 picks. Justin threw only 1, to his considerable credit, given his history in Chicago. But the other difference there is that, and this is the biggest difference on the entire line, that Russ has thrown for 16 touchdowns while Justin threw for only 5. You'll recall that was the issue where Justin was concerned. He would get the team to inside the 20 and then just not get touchdowns. On a less tangible level, I liked where Justin was headed. The thing that Russ's arrival seemed to stress more than anything else as a difference between the two was that Russ was reading the entire field. Russ was using the entire field. Russ was going to his second and third options, things that Justin wasn't even considering. Justin would look up, he would see one thing, didn't like it. He would either go to his first check down or he would just tuck and run. But, and this to me is most important, he was getting better at it. Early on, there weren't any throws to the middle of the field. How much of that was Justin and how much of that was Arthur Smith? We can never know. I heard that Smith was involved in that. But gradually, you started to see more and more of those green dots in the middle of the field. And you started to see Justin make some of those reads, start to understand and feel the offense, which he was never going to be able to assimilate as quickly as someone like Russ, who's been in the league for a long, long time. So this is the part where I get hypothetical. What would have happened had Justin stayed the quarterback? Would his arrow have continued to point upward? Would we have seen more progress? Did Tomlin conveniently make the switch before facing the 2 New Jersey teams when he knew there'd be resounding success? And of course there was. Should Tomlin and Smith and everybody else have thought to themselves, and some of you will recall that this was the point that I was stressing above all at that time, that Russ wasn't going to be able to withstand being behind that offensive line for very long, whereas Justin could always just press the B button and spin out of there. Well, guess what? I think that's what's happened. I'm not going to bury Russ, and I'm not even going to overanalyze Russ over the past month. but he's been bad. His rating is at a Kenny Pickett level, in the low 80s. That's not okay, and in fact, that's actually pretty scary heading into a playoff game against a team with a really, really good, well, they have a good defense up front anyway, the Ravens do, and they're going to come after him. They're going to come after him every snap, and there isn't going to be an answer for it because Russ believes in extending the play, and if the play isn't there to be extended, Russ thinks he's still 26 instead of 36 and that he can flee out of there, and he can't. Justin can. And I would have liked to have seen how all of this went, while also recognizing and respecting that Russ's first handful of games were really, really good. I've never lost sight of the fact, and it is undeniable, that the Steelers still need a quarterback in 2025 and beyond, and they might have one here under their roof. Justin would be far from the first quarterback to figure things out in his mid to late 20s. Now, he was asked yesterday, as you might expect, how he sees his future and whether or not he thinks this might be the last time he's suiting up for the Steelers.
I showed what I showed. I'm just getting better each and every day. That's what I'm focused on now. So.
Good for him. All business. And both of these quarterbacks have been that way. And that's what you want. Justin, specifically, since this segment's about him, has been completely first class from the outset of training camp to understanding that he was in a competition and competing while at the same time working with Russ, learning from him, to then accepting his benching while then supporting Russ from the sideline. He has checked every box. And this is someone of really, really, really high quarterbacking pedigree, per his draft year, with exceptional arm talent and wheels like nobody else. I'm not even going to put Lamar Jackson up there because I don't know that Lamar has the same wheels that Lamar had a handful of years ago. So, what are we doing here? We'll come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Mike, who says, DK, after the Steelers gained only 91 total yards over 3 quarters against the Bengals, how will they ensure quicker adjustments to avoid falling behind early in the Ravens game? I'm not laughing at you, Mike. I'm laughing with you. Could deploying a 2-minute style offense earlier in the game help set a faster tempo and maybe catch Baltimore off guard? Oh, all I have for you, Mike, is sarcasm. That's it. If you don't want to hear my sarcasm, then we're done for the day. But I'm picturing a scenario in which the Steelers and this coaching staff and Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith for the first time say, you know what, fellas, this is the week. This is the one where we're going to care what we do on the first drive instead of just pile driving Najee Harris into them and assuming that magically this is going to have some detrimental effect on them by the time the fourth quarter comes around. We're actually going to try to score on this opening drive the first time we touch the ball. So what do we do here? And then Tomlin says to the room, well, our personality is that of a running team, but I think it's okay for me to be wrong and look at the statistics and notice that we're 4th in the league in rushing attempts, but 25th in the league in rushing yards per carry at 4.1. So maybe we're just not very good at this. And I'm not really an egotistical guy, so I think that it's okay for us to just acknowledge that we blew it with this, and we're going to try something completely different. And everyone in the room is just sitting there going, oh, yeah, harumph. At least as much as you can harumph with your jaw having just hit the table. And from there, someone comes up with your idea, Mike, and they say, well, we're going to really throw them off by going hurry up, because hurry up was actually one of the few things that worked last week against the Bengals, And we learn from the things we do well and the things we don't well. So let's make that part of our package too. You see where I'm going here. It's just not going to happen. There's nothing in this head coach's character, per almost 2 decades of precedent, that would have you believing that this is possible, this scenario that I'm laying out here, that they would come out and just stun you and go for a shock effect. What they're going to do, and what they're undoubtedly doing right now in their planning for this game, is to figure out the best possible way to make work what they want to make work. They want to be a running team, so they want to figure out a way to run, as opposed to just wanting to get down the damn field and put up some points through whatever means might be available to them. I appreciate the question, Mike. I'm sorry if it came across as being a not serious response, but I don't know what else to say after watching this team over this past month, and especially over these past couple of weeks. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Steelers, and we will have another one of these tomorrow.